There are approximately 650 million people with disabilities in the world, 50 million of whom are blind. Behind these numbers, though, are stories and are people who have stories of discrimination, honor, and success. I'm here to tell you my story, the story of transformation through technology, and how technology helped me overcome society's understanding, society's assumptions about my abilities. In fact, the tune I just played is from my new album, and that sort of represents the way I look at life. Life is upbeat, rhythmic, and full of surprises. When I went to the School for the Blind in Ukraine, we used to read and write, obviously, like every kid everywhere, right? This is the device that we used to read and write. This is called slate. Think the grid. This is what I want you to think, right? Or perhaps Matrix Reloaded, that's what you like. Now, here's the other piece of technology. This is called, by the way, this has a laser at the end of it. No, just kidding. This is called stylus. And so the way this thing works is you take a piece of paper, you put inside this thing, and then you would punch the dots. You'd have to punch really fast if you want to keep up with the rest of the class. So, what comes out is this. This is called Braille. Can you see that, guys? Bunch of dots. Wow. Braille is a very simple but a very versatile alphabet. It allows blind people not only read and write, but it allows blind people to annotate math, write music, and even foreign languages. The coolest thing about Braille in the School for the Blind was that not only I could read and write with Braille, but I could also exchange the information with my teachers, because all teachers obviously knew Braille as well. Well, they better, because they worked at the School for the Blind, right? So this was really great because I was able to turn in my assignments, they were able to grade them and give it back to me, and we could comment, and so was the information flowed very naturally, and so the school moved on. Now, at the end of high school, well, before even that, before the end of the high school, let's talk about my primary school. Obviously, having access to this sort of information in Braille made me dream a lot of things. I wanted to be a mathematician one day. I wanted to be a musician the other day. And the third day I thought, yeah, why couldn't I go and be a foreign language interpreter? I could do it, right, with Braille. The end of the high school came, and I found out something this. You know, Drew was talking about brushes. Well, this is a different kind of brush. Now, a lot of blind people in the Soviet Union were expected to do precisely that. So the careers were sort of predetermined for you. This was a very common thing to do. And unfortunately, I couldn't find the original Ukrainian brush, so I had to go to CVS and pick up one up. But it looks pretty close to what I would be doing. So I tried it for a couple of months, and as part of the school requirements, because it was a sort of career development thing, right? And I thought, I'd go back, pick this up, and go to university with a stylus in my hand, great. So I went to university to study philosophy. It was great, I was able to type my notes, just like I did before. But you know what? Within a couple of days of my entering university, I noticed something strange. Yes, I could read and write Braille, but nobody else could. None of my classmates knew Braille, none of my teachers or professors knew Braille. So that whole idea of sharing information suddenly broke down. It was no longer there. Yes, I could write my notes, but when it came to passing exams, I had to pass oral exams because nobody would read my notes. They could say, well, maybe you're lying. Perhaps you wrote not what you're saying you wrote, right? And one of the interesting examples I remember the story is that when I was supposed to pass a chemistry exam and I went into the classroom and the professor said, well, yeah, I don't know, you're blind. I don't think you could do the chemistry. Would you like me to talk with you about literature, perhaps Dostoevsky? And, we'd discuss for 20 minutes. I told him that I studied, I had good grades at school, but he was unbroken. He said, why don't we talk about literature? So we talked about literature for the next 20 minutes. I got my grade, and that's basically how it went. And that wasn't uncommon. That is not to say that all my exams were that way, but this was pretty good example of what others thought I could do as opposed to what I knew I could do. Then I had a chance to go to the United States while at the university, and I came across this. Whoa. Now, at that time, it wasn't wireless, of course. But this is pretty close. Now, once I learned how to type, and this was, by the way, connected to the computer. Not that you didn't know that, right? In order to be able to type. But I was able to pass information into the computer, and I had text-to-speech synthesizer connected to it, so when I typed something, the computer would respond to me with clear and unhuman-like sounding speech. But it was understandable. I could understand it. That's good enough. Now, with this keyboard, think of it this way. With this keyboard, I was suddenly able to access encyclopedia. I was able, again, to read and write. I was able to print my assignments, and teachers could give me their comments on the floppy disk. And with that knowledge, with that capability, I went back to Ukraine, established Computer Center for the Blind. I got back to the States, received my degree in computer science, all by myself, which is great. Then I went to Southeast Asia and Middle East to teach other blind people how to use computers. Now I work for major internet company in Silicon Valley, and believe it or not, my job is actually to make sure that our products are accessible so that people like myself, and not only, can share the information on the internet. Because without sharing, literacy may not be as effective as it should be. As I thought, I got it. I have a keyboard. Wonderful. Life goes well, right? Then one day I walk into the store, and I want to pay with a credit card, and the teller tells me, well, you know what, we have this touch screen machine, so you got to tell us your PIN, and somebody will punch it in for you. I say, wait a second, there's something wrong with it. I'm not giving you my PIN, right? The other week, I'm flying in the plane, and I wanted to switch radio channels, just like you would do in your old planes. And I had to call on the flight attendant so that he could touch the screen in order to enable me to switch radio channels. And I told him, you know, man, you got to be standing by me for the rest of the flight. Because I like to listen to a lot of radio, and I'm switching channels like crazy. and so you get an idea that suddenly future sort of felt like it was slipping away. You know, it really felt a little bit like, well, if everything is going to go touch screen, what are we going to do about it? You know, and then there were voting machines that you see popping up, and people couldn't vote because they had to touch the screen in order to be able to vote. Then, a couple of months ago, this thing came out. This everybody knows, it's iPhone, right? Now, I don't work for Apple, so just tell you right away. Unlock. But with this device, I can do this.
Messages. Calendar. Mail. Safari. Mail. Calendar. Messages. Clock. Double tap.
Now, I don't have timers set up, so don't worry about it. Okay, so you get the idea. So what Apple enabled me to do with the iPhone is be able to touch the screen and hear what's on the screen. Now, suddenly, I felt like, wow, we're getting somewhere. Now, innovation came back and rescued me. It said, future is back in your hands. Now, I want you guys to think about something for a moment. Hold your thoughts, freeze them for a second. Okay, let's zero in on an interesting idea here. We create technology to make people's lives meaningful. We create technology to improve people's lives, right? For people with disabilities, technology not only improves lives, but it actually enables lives in many cases. Because without technology, we can't do certain things that we could do with technology. I already gave a bunch of examples of that. But now, some of the vivid ones, think of a curb cut in the sidewalk. Was created for people in wheelchairs to be able to navigate more easily. It's great for strollers, it's great for skateboarders, and what have you. You can continue the list for yourself. Alexander Bell, the guy who invented the phone, his interest in speech acoustics were motivated by the deafness of his mother and his wife. Braille that I just showed you, the paper fell. But Braille that I just showed you was invented by French army in order to be able to communicate in the dark. And then the guy from Sorbonne University, Louis Braille, came along and said, this would be a great literacy tool for people who are blind. And so it still is in many countries, many developing and in developed countries. So here's the thing. So this is the past. This is how I started my studying and sort of my journey into the world of literacy with Slate. This is the iPhone. Couple of years, well, not couple of years, but yeah, bunch of years later. This iPhone is now a Slate for kids or for people who, who have ability to purchase it, because this is how they interact with the world. I'd love to see or to know what is going to be the iPhone of the next century. What is going to be the device that people take in their head, somebody who's blind, 25 years from now, and say, this device enables me to do things that I wasn't able to do before. And on that note, I just want to not ask, but almost like to strongly suggest that when we innovate, let's make sure that we do not forget to include people who are disabled into our design. Because as we innovate to change the lives of millions, it is important to keep in mind the other millions that you're not reaching out to. Thank you very much.